Okay, any questions? Can somebody confirm you can hear me? Oh, wrong one.
Yes, we can.
Thank you. All right, you should be seeing my screen now. I have two of those open. Don't probably need that. Let's see. So today is January 13th, and we were supposed to be discussing. Oh, I got that wrong. Not lab two. I'm set up to talk about lab two. I'll change that to discussing and beginning the infectious disease project. You also need to read textbook chapter through the end of the section on compound light microscopy. You need to read about the light microscope before beginning labs 3 and 4 for next week. Any question about any of that? All right, let me get out of here. Lab two. And the worksheet to lab two. I didn't check the syllabus close enough. I saw lab two. That's actually Thursday. So let's talk about the infectious disease project. My computer is a little slow, you may have noticed, and that's because I'm still working on the Zoom file from lecture, and we're only 80% of the way done. So bear with me a bit. All right, so the infectious disease research project is worth 100 points. It is a lab project. You will only get 100 points if you have 100% on your two Plagy quizzes. So you need to get 100% on your Plagy quizzes to get any points on the infectious disease project. And you can repeat the Plagy quizzes, I think, as many times as you want. Certainly a large number of times. And then I give you the answer, so I'd be very surprised if anyone needs to repeat it more than twice. Any question about any of that? All right. In this project, you're going to be focusing in on a specific infectious disease, determining the underlying cause, what the microbe does to the human body, how we treat the disease, how social, economic, and political factors affect our ability to deal with the disease. In essence, you're going to become an expert on one particular disease. And that's the whole point of this project. Any question about that? Sorry, I've got something in my eye. You can read about the rationale for the disease project format and the assignment. You're going to pick an infectious disease, but you need to check with me about your disease. So the first person who asks for a disease will get it, assuming it's an infectious disease. I will go through and make sure it's an infectious disease. And then if it's not, I'll let you know you got to pick another disease. I'll also let you know if somebody has already picked your disease, so you have to pick another one. Because everybody's going to do a different disease. Now, I can divide the diseases by categories or groups. Like malaria, I can divide malaria by the species causing the disease. And I think there's 5 different species that can cause disease, and each of them gives a slightly different disease. With HIV, I can divide it up into HIV 1 and HIV 2. The disease is slightly different. whether it's caused by HIV-1 or HIV-2. So you just need to talk about the disease caused by HIV-1 or a disease caused by HIV-2. There are some diseases I will split into the early stages of disease and the late stages of disease, like Streptococcus pyogenes tends to cause strep throat early on in the disease process, but it can cause other diseases later on, such as rheumatic fever, scarlet fever, and some other diseases, which are actually not very common anymore because when somebody gets strep throat, they usually go on antibiotics. But I can divide that by stage of the disease. So there are some diseases I do divide. And that's another reason why you need to check with me. Because some diseases I'll say you got to divide it. You take this part, and somebody else can take another part. So email me your disease choice, and generally the first student who emails it will get it. You should email it to me at the Canvas email site because I'll check that about every other day, sometimes every day, usually Monday through Friday. I'll check it every day. But on the weekend, for example, it'll definitely be no more than once every other day.
So we can send you a message through Canvas on the inbox section, and that'll work.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. All right, then learn about your assigned disease. The Clark College Library has a database to help you search. You'll need to research the disease, get your references, get your information, and then write the written report. So the report is going to be a written report. Having all of the information about your disease in the report, which I'll talk about what information is required. And it must be typed, single spaced, with 1 inch margins and a 12-inch font. If you use a font less than that, I'm going to have a hard time reading it. And I'm not going to be very generous in the grading if I have to have a hard time reading it. So please make it a 12-point font. The written report must have a cover. Make the title, having the disease title with the name of the disease, your name, the date, and the course name. This cover page should not be its own page. It should be the top of your first page of text. Any question about any of that? So then you have the text of your project, and this text should not exceed 5 single pages. If it's more than 6 pages, I'm talking about the text, then you'll get a penalty. If it's less than 4 pages of text, then you'll get a penalty. Okay? In the counting, I'm not going to count any pictures. I'm not going to count the references. Okay? But in your text of the body of your page, it should be about 5 pages, within between 4 and 6. If it's longer than that, it's just kind of a hassle to read, so you get a penalty. If it's shorter than that, you should have put more detail in your report. Any question about any of that? All right. You should report all aspects of the disease, which I'll talk about in the report content below. The material presented as a text will be worth 60 points, with an additional 15 points for grammar. So that's 75 points on the reading. The grammar will be what your grammar is, the correct grammar, the spelling, the correct spelling, the correct flow, the correct readability. No grammar issues, no mistakes. You'll get the 15 out of the 15. If there's slight errors, you'll probably get 2 points deducted. Lots of errors, you might get more points deducted. You have access to Grammarly. You probably could even get access to free version for just this project. So you should be able to get the grammar and the spelling correct. Maybe not the spelling if you maybe use their THERE instead of their THEIR, but the spelling should be fairly good. As much as possible, the text should be written in your own words. Use direct quotes only when necessary. When you're quoting information from someone else, put it in quotes, and then afterwards, cite it. We'll talk about how you cite in just a minute. Any information that is not common knowledge that you got either in a quote or paraphrased in your own words, you must cite it, giving a proper source within the body of the text immediately after the sentence, unless all of the sentences in the paragraph refer to the same source. So you don't have to say first sentence, reference one, second sentence, reference one, third sentence, reference one, fourth sentence, reference one, fifth sentence, reference one. At the end of the paragraph, all you need to do is put reference one. But that's the exception. If ever you have a paragraph having more than one citation, then you have to put it after each sentence, wherever you have a statement of fact which is not common knowledge, or whenever you quote someone or you paraphrase. Whenever you quote someone or paraphrase, you should put a citation. Otherwise, it's plagiarism, and plagiarism may result in a score of 0 for the paper. In-text citation, use the style, the author's name and year, usually within a bracket. Let me show you that. All right, so you have a sentence which is all either common knowledge or nothing that you're quoting, and then you're stating something that's not common knowledge, like how many people in the USA came down with COVID-19 in 2000, let's go 24. It's not common knowledge. So after that fact, you should put in a citation, which will be the author's last name. I guess I should put author. And then a comma, and then the year of publication. It will go 2025 for this example. Any question about any of that? Obviously, if there's more than one author, if there's two, you go author one, author two, their last name. I guess that should be and then a comma, and then the year of publication. If there's more than two, you go author one et al. And then the year. The exception is something like you're writing in your sentence according to Smith, according to Smith, um, I don't know, you state some fact that isn't well known. COVID-19. Coronaviruses. Okay. Um, so that would be one exception, and that is when you're actually naming the person, you don't go Smith 2021. You leave that and then you put the year there, and that's the citation. That is used very infrequently. Most of the time, it'll be right here. Let me go make that a little easier to read. Author's last name, comma 2025. Any question about any of that? So that's an in-text citation. You should have an in-text citation after every fact which is not commonly known. If it's common knowledge, like, I don't know, Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492, is that when it was? That's common knowledge, so you don't need to have an in-text citation. Any question about in-text citation? If you don't have enough in-text citations, you will get a penalty. If you have the in-text citation incorrect, which is why I went through so many examples here, you'll get a penalty. And then each in-text citation should, at the end of the paper, have in the reference section the complete full reference, which was the full references. Where, let's just go ahead and say Smith, A, J, 2021, Journal of the National Academy Sciences. Don't ask me what volume number, so we're just going to make one up. Page 2020. Let's go 202, 2002, well, to 2005. Whoop. Oh, you should have a title in there. Let me put this in. So what you should have for a journal reference would be the author's last name, his initials, the date, year of publication, the title of the article, the journal of the article or the source, including the volume number and the page number. That's for a journal. For a web page, it's actually the same here. But you can give the web page address. For a book, there's a few more things you need to add. That's probably the chapter. And then the year of publication. It used to be in APA 6, you need to give the city of publication, but I think in APA 7, you don't need to give the city of publication. I could be wrong on that, but I don't think you need to do that anymore. Let me briefly just look at that. I'm so used to doing it the old way. It's recently changed in APA 7. APA 7 came out recently. Book. Author, date, title of book, publisher information, and a URL if you have one. Um, yeah, you don't need to have the city of publication. Any question about any of that? But there's something else I forgot because it's added now. Web page if available. All right. Any questions about any of that?
I'm just curious, how many references are you looking for in total on this assignment?
You need at least four, which are, let's call them peer reviewed, meaning good, solid references.
Great.
For a
Thank you.
peer-reviewed, any scientific journal, any scientific textbook will be peer-reviewed. For newspaper articles, they could be peer-reviewed by the editor, but usually they're not peer-reviewed. And web pages often are not peer-reviewed.
Perfect. Thank you so
But if you
much.
use a good web page like one made by a professor, at least it'll be corrected if there's a mistake on it. If you use a web page from other sources, realize that it could be incorrect, and obviously that will not count to one of the four. But you need four good references.
Thank you so much.
All right. And unfortunately, for a good reference, you can't use Wikipedia. The reason being that Wikipedia, anyone can go in and change what's in Wikipedia. And so we decided that Wikipedia cannot be used, but you can look up the data in Wikipedia and then use the references that they provide. You should check to make sure the references are actually valid, but you could do that. And there are other, what do you call that? Encyclopedias online, which are not like Wikipedia. You can't go in and change them. And those you could use as a reference. Any question about any of that? All right, that's the references. I went through the references in great detail because students frequently miss points on either the index references or the full references. Oh, here's something else. And that is if there's an et al. In the full references, it will be marked down because you cannot use et al. In a full reference if with unless there are more than 20 authors. If there's more than 20 authors, you spell out, I think, the first 19 And then you can go dot, 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 and then give the last 20th author, the last author. Okay, and that's the only time with APA 7 that you can abbreviate the number of authors. Giving 19, then you go dot, 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 you put the last author, and you're not going to run into a reference having 20 or more authors, okay? And that's a little change from APA 6. With APA 6, you could do, I think it was on 8 authors, you could do the dot, dot, dot. So you do the first 7, then dot, 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 and then the 8th. But that's APA 6, you're stuck with APA 7 now. So essentially, you're never going to use at all in the complete references. Don't really need that. All right, let's return to the infectious disease project. So I told you about in-text citation. They'll be worth 10 points. Excuse me. Let's change that. I meant to do that earlier and I didn't remember to do it. Maybe I did on your copy. But you must use APA, in fact, APA 7 format. Be consistent in your use, and you're only allowed to use APA. Sources you cite in the paper should be scientifically reputable and appropriate. Good sites would be from the US government, the USDA, the FDA. The CDC isn't quite reputable anymore. Sorry about that. That's because of our well, I don't remember what his title is, a cabinet member of the health, and that is he's made some changes in the CDC, and they're not providing scientific facts anymore, meaning they're providing stuff which are a little bit of opinion. But normally the CDC is pretty good. At the moment, we'll have to bear and grin it. But you probably shouldn't quote from the CDC unless you check to make sure it's correct. Okay? There's scientific journals, Nature, Science are examples. Popular magazines that are known to be reliable, Scientific American, National Geographic, Time, Newsweek. Books and newspapers on biology, microbiology. Any usually textbook of college is good. Newspapers of a credible source. The New York Times is a credible source. The National Enquirer is not credible. So do not cite the National Enquirer. Do not cite things from a suspicious site like a religious, a politically motivated, a privately funded publication website because they'll have their personal biases. College and university pages that contain student work. Students make mistakes, they don't change them. If it's a college or university site made by a professor, that might have a mistake in it, but eventually the professor will find the mistake and then correct it. Wikipedia, I've already mentioned, you can't use because anybody can change it at any time. All right, any questions about what you can cite, what you must cite? I'm not seeing in here how many citations I need. I'll look down below and see if I find it there. But I think it's 4 good, valid references. Essentially, if anything is peer reviewed, but like Newsweek, Time Magazine, that would be valid. Literature citation page. Well, I've already talked about that. You must have 4 unique good sources in your reference. There it is right there. The complete literature citation page, meaning the full references, are worth 15 points. The final report must be saved as a docx, meaning Microsoft Word, a text format, a rich text format, a write format. You cannot do a PDF format. The reason is the plagiarism checker has trouble with the PDF format. So it has to be one of these formats. Everyone can save a document as text or rich text format. I realize with Doc and DocX, you might need to have Microsoft Word on it to do it. But everyone has a word processor. You can save it as a rich text format or a text format. The project content must have these subject headings and these subjects. And I want to know where each section begins. That'll be the start of the section subheading. And then where it ends will be the start of the next subject heading. If you're missing these, you will get a -6 point, one for each subheading. All right, so you must have a section discussing the causative agent. What's the causative agent of disease? Is it a bacterium, a virus, or a prion? If it's a bacterium, you need to tell me what the characteristics of the cell, what is its gram reaction, what is its cell shape, what is its growth arrangement, any metabolic capabilities, anything that's interesting about this bacterium. Similar for a virus, is it a DNA virus, a RNA virus? If it's an RNA virus, is it the positive RNA strand or the negative RNA strand? Is the virus it must have been a virus that integrates into the chromosome like a retrovirus. Is the virus enveloped or naked? How large is the virus? There it is there. Is it a provirus in the virus or not? Any unique characteristics of the multiplication cycle of the virus? And then you can read about how to do a prion and a eukaryote. The next subsection should be history. In the history, you should talk about how long we've known about the disease. Historically, how was this disease treated? What is the history of vaccine development? If there's no vaccine for this disease, just state there's no effective vaccine for this disease. Describe the changes in our knowledge and attitudes towards the disease throughout history. Even COVID-19, which is a very recent disease, we've changed our knowledge and our attitude towards this disease. Any questions about history? All right, then move on. Tell me about epidemiology. Describe the prevalence and the transmission of this disease. Where in the world is the disease prevalent? Like the malaria is found in the tropics and the subtropics. How many people are currently infected? If you don't know, or there's none, state none, or the number of disease is not known by even the World Health Organization. Okay? What's the rate of new infections? What are the rates of morbidity and the rates of mortality? Mortality, the rate of people who die from the disease. Morbidity, the people who get sick from the disease. What are the reservoirs of the pathogen? A reservoir is where the disease comes from. What are the modes of transmission? Like the reservoir of malaria are mosquitoes and obviously people. And what are the modes of transmission to people? The bite of a mosquito. Talk about pathology. I'll let you read about that. Talk about the response and the treatment of the disease. Talk about socio political and economic considerations of the disease. You can use AI in this project, but if you use AI, you must put it in quotes and cite it. Even if you use paraphrasing, you have to cite it. Otherwise, you're going to be plagiarizing AI. The notation that people can be characterized as left brain or right brain is considered to be an oversimplification and a popular myth. So that's put in quotes, and the person got it from OpenAI 2023. And so that would be the citation in the text. And then in the references, you have the full reference, OpenAI 2023, Chat GPT, March 14th version, large language model. And there's the reference, the web page for um, Chat OpenAI. Sorry. Any question about that? All right. The instructor grading rubric is found on the next page. This is how your paper will be graded. The cover information will be worth 2 points. The causative agent will be worth 9 points. If it's bacterial, tell me the gram reaction, the shape, the cellular arrangement, metabolic capabilities, anything else that's important to that bacteria. The history will be worth 10 points. Epidemiology, 10 points. Response and treatment, 10 points. Social and economic considerations, 19 points. The quality of writing, 15 points. In-text citations, 10 points. Literature citation page, 15 points. For a total of 100 points. Any questions about this project?
So Grammarly uses AI to like you can write your own paper and put in your own citations and you can check for plagiarism on the Grammarly that you pay for. And you can
Uh-huh.
also have it like kind of like bump up your paper by like using different like bigger words. It's like the word with the same meaning, but it's like more sophisticated sounding? Like, do we need to quote like the edits that AI does, or like put in that it was edited by like Grammarly AI or
If you use 3 or more words in a sentence, it's consecutive words in a sentence, you have to put it in quotes and say you got it from Grammarly. If you use 1 or 2 words, you do not need to cite it and put it in quotes and say you got it from Grammarly.
okay.
Okay? So it's just the rule of thumb again. If you're using 3 or more words from any one source, you have to cite it. Usually you're using the same exact words in the same order, so you put it in quotes.
So if it's just changing like one word, like
Yeah,
uh
one word is fine. You can do that.
because it would normally like change like the first word of my sentence and be like, oh, you can replace it with this word. You know?
That's fine. You can do that and
Okay.
you don't need to cite it.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? All right, that's it for me. If there's no further questions, I'll end the lab for today. Any other questions? All right, see you. Oh, come on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, there we go. You're welcome.